64% of Germans rise up against the European Union, and a new document shows that Ursula von der Leyen has broken the terms of the Brexit trade deal. Hello everyone and welcome to today's program. Things are not looking good for the European Union this week. We've been reporting on the scandals of the vaccine program and everything else with Ursula von der Leyen. And she's received a lot of criticism from the European press, but she now has her own European Parliament, the fake European Parliament. MEPs coming out to ask her to resign. This is not really looking good because it's not just her. There are also certain other officials around her team who are receiving the same criticism. So, for example, we have dozens of MEPs who are now calling on Joseph Borrell, who is the EU's High Representative on the Foreign Affairs, to also resign because he went to Russia to sort out the situation with the Russian sanctions. And firstly, he was completely humiliated. At the same time, when he was there, Russia decided to expel a number of European diplomats, and he just didn't do anything about it. So it was a completely embarrassing moment for the EU politicians in that moment. But again, it goes to the fact that right now, Germany, that's always been a big player in the European politics. Generally speaking, the German establishment always pro Brussels, and the German media, the whole thing has always been very much pro the European project. And there's always been a small Eurosceptic movement going around in the country, but we have some new data showing that the majority of Germans are now against the Brussels performance. But before we get to that point, let's talk about how this article has actually been published by Spiegel, the German publication that's decided to publish a number of opinion polls on Ursula von der Leyen's performance, on the European Union generally speaking, and the German public completely changed their mind at this point, which is not really looking good for the establishment parties in Germany, with elections coming up every now and then, and you can see that the trend is completely changing. Now, the latest that we have is that this opinion poll shows that 22% of the German public are now saying that the situation, that the view against the European Union is it's gone much worse than before. 42% saying it's completely deteriorated. And it seems like the 42% probably won't change their mind at this point. So adding 42 to the 22%, that's 64% of the German public who are just don't think that the European Union is giving them any benefits at this point. And this is Germany, as I said, the major player in EU politics. So if 64% of a country that's benefiting from the EU are not happy, then what do you expect from other countries, whether it's Hungary or Greece or Italy or Portugal in this situation as well? So this Eurosceptic movement in Europe is on the rise, and there's absolutely no surprise, especially with Brexit happening and becoming a success. A number of European countries are going to look at it and say, well, if Britain can do it, I'm sure we can do it as well. Now, this whole movement is specifically because of the recent scandal with the vaccine program. In Germany, only 2.5 million people have now been vaccinated, thanks to Ursula von der Leyen. And this is, again, comparing to, for example, Israel, that right now, almost a third, I think it's now more than a third of the population have already received the jab. UK's performance has been absolutely amazing as well. Again, there's a whole different discussion on the different jabs and different companies and how it's kind of been processed, but that's a whole different thing anyway. But at this point, when it comes to the performance of the political establishment, this German or former German politician, who's now a failed politician who's become the head of the European Commission, is not even helping her own country. Now, this is not really a big shock if you're watching this, I'm sure, when you have, for example, only around 6% of those questions answered that their view of the European Union is slightly improved. Only 6% think that the European Union are actually performing well at this point. It's not really good because, as I said, the establishment parties in Germany have always been pretty much pro the EU project. But this actually is now coming from all the majority of political parties. You have the supporters of the Union, the SPD, even the Greens and all the other lefties. They've all changed their mind on this issue. So if there's going to be a movement across Europe, from Italy and France, then you might have to add Germany to that list of Eurosceptic movements as well. Now, meanwhile, in Brussels, they're causing more trouble by upsetting more of their allies. First, they decided to attack the UK government for the mess they created with the AstraZeneca contracts. Now, they have angered the Canadian government because of their export ban. So obviously there's been a cut in shipments across the Atlantic as well because of the centralized policy of let's keep everything that we have, all the jabs, in Brussels, and also let's try and get it from other countries like the UK. Let's force them to give us more vaccines. So this is not really good because, again, Canada decided to get into an agreement with the European Union, which, again, took years to negotiate. And they're completely now angering their own ally. And the German situation is actually going to be making things more difficult for the European project because the fundamental of the economic situation in the European Union, the Eurozone, is because Germany's economy as a whole has been pretty much stable. And seems like it's going to be the main country right now, with the UK leaving, funding the whole thing. And if the German economy goes down, the whole thing will collapse. Actually, this is coming from a German MEP itself. And but not just the actual establishment people. You have people like the former Greek finance minister Yanis Varoufakis, who's also come out. He's always been pretty much Eurosceptic, but very much a communist. He actually has come out to say that the way the European Union will go down is that Germany will leave the Eurozone once the Berlin political class has had enough of the riffraff, and asking the Greeks, the Italians, and the French, and the Portuguese, and so on. So this is how the snowball is going to start. And when the bailouts fail, when the debt actually gets much worse, the Eurozone can't actually sustain itself, and Germany going down will mean that the Greeks and Italians, and again all the others, including the Spanish, will also rise up after them. This will completely change the whole game. The European Union are not really good at keeping their allies right now. They've signed this Brexit trade deal, which hasn't even been ratified yet. At the same time, we now have new evidence actually showing that apparently they're breaking their own rules. They're breaking the agreement that they have decided to have with the UK government, especially on fisheries. So banning shellfish is going against their own rules. This is actually going to be making things more difficult because of the financial sector as well. Because the Telegraph has obtained some documents from the Whitehall officials between them and the European Commission, which actually shows that it previously advised that exporting shellfish should still be possible after Brexit. But now they're actually blocking it. This was not written in the Brexit trade deal. This was supposed to be smooth. This was supposed to be an easy thing. And they said that, when at the time they were saying, 96% of the deal is already agreed. This was part of it. The other thing is the financial sector. Right now, they're being difficult. Right now, they're saying that we're not going to give access to the UK, kind of the city of London and the financial sector, because the Eurozone has to protect itself. The UK has left the European club. We don't really care about them. Really? Equivalence, which is giving access to the financial sector, is a normal thing, even if you're not a member of the European Union. So the EU has this agreement with a number of other non-EU countries out there, because that's healthy financially for the third countries, but also for the European Union countries themselves. This has now come out. Again, there's some evidence showing that selective treatment of one state for political reasons breaches the non-discrimination principle of the World Trade Organization. So this is, again, against the WTO rules. So not only they're breaking the Brexit rules, the Brexit trade deal rules, they're also breaking the WTO rules on the financial sector. So again, an expert in international trade law at Cambridge University has come out to say that a good lawyer would reach for the Article 7 of the General Agreement on Trade in Services, and it is not a slam dunk, but it would be a good case. Switzerland also explored legal resources under the WTO law after the EU decided to single out the Swiss exchanges just to punish them. So Switzerland won that battle when the EU decided to, attempt to punish Switzerland on, for different reasons, because that was also against the WTO rules. And this same things are happening all over again with Britain and the financial sector in the city of London. Now, all these issues will be completely up to date in the next couple of days as we start the new week. And again, City of London is going to prepare itself, especially FTSE 100, because of everything's been happening in the Eurozone. So we're going to have some reaction from the financial services, but primarily on what the European Union is doing with the Brexit trade deal and WTO rules. So I'll keep you guys posted as usual. And finally, in today's News in Your World, we have a story from one of our subscribers, David. This is actually a story about resilience and never giving up when it comes to life problems, because David, when he was born, he was actually diagnosed with ataxic cerebral palsy, which means that he was supposed to be on a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And but he never gave up, even as a child. Even when he got to the age of 6, he was able to start climbing around the playground. And so actually, he improved massively, and he decided to then pass his door supervisor course and the first aid training, and now he's helping out with events across his town. He's also been diagnosed with autism, but he's decided to actually use that to fight against autism, which is again a cause that's quite underrated in our society. So this shows that despite the life problems, never lose hope, and David is a perfect example of that. So thank you so much, David, for sending us your story, and keep up the good fight, especially with your cause on fighting autism. Now, if you guys also want to be have a chance to be featured in our News in Your World segment, send us your positive, happy stories, anything that you guys have recently, to lacey@myitc.co.uk, and don't forget to include any photos or videos that you have related to that story. You could also find the email address in the description. Thanks again for watching. I'm MyITC, and I'll see you guys in the next video.